Well, now the establishment and legacy media, because they believe that they are the sole expositors of truth, they have decided they are going to curb social media. They're going to attack social media until social media refuses to allow you to see the stuff you went on Facebook to see in the first place. And Facebook, because now apparently they're being controlled from the inside by their woke staffers and craven politicos, now because of that, you're starting to see social media curb your ability to access the information you went there to see in the first place. And they're doing so at the behest of a pathetic, self-indulgent media firmly convinced of their own virtue. We're going to get to more of this in just one second. This is what it's going to be like for years, by the way. It's going to be like this for years. This is the battle. I've been saying this for months now. This is the battle. It's been obviously the battle since the Hunter Biden shutdown. This is the battle. Will you even get to see? Will you even get to access the information you want to see? Will you be able to fight back against the misinformation put out by the left if the left controls all the sources of informational dissemination? Okay, so the media's goal here is now to reestablish their dominance, top down, because the social media companies, they took you in, they said that you had a platform now where you could see stuff that was not the mainstream media. Again, the mainstream media dominated the space. They didn't need the social media companies. The social media companies were explicitly an alternative to those mainstream media companies. Now the mainstream media, legacy media companies, they're attempting to use social media in order to shut down the debate again. Right? They drew you in, and now they are shutting the door. They're shutting the door, and they're making sure that you don't see anything that they don't want you to see. And they are laundering their information in order to do so. So what they have basically declared is that Facebook, for example, should shut down any right-wing site. So the way they do this is they actually just go in very often, and they falsify information. People on the left will just go in and falsify information. So what they'll do is they'll do things like this. They'll go to NewsGuard, which is a pathetic site, which is designed to basically say that anybody on the right is disinformation. If you say you're overtly conservative, they say that you are not a trusted news source. If you are covertly leftist, right? If you're the New York Times and you're pretty overtly leftist, but you try to pretend that you're not, then you're a trusted news source. If you're the Daily Wire and we just say we're conservative, NewsGuard will literally say to us that we are not a trusted news source because we are more honest about our own political biases than the New York Times. And so NewsGuard will then be used by Facebook in order to shut down our traffic. Right? You will see people on the left suggest that we at the Daily Wire were disinformation. Why? Well, they'll go over to Wikipedia and they will actually use a sentence in our Wikipedia profile inserted by a partisan leftist that does not reflect reality in any way. Right now, the Wikipedia profile literally reads, many of the website's story involve unverified information and may be considered fake news. They then link to a story that does not say anything like that. There's nothing in the story that even alleges that. Doesn't matter. And so, before the election, this is not a shock, and here they are. Here are your journalistic tech activists. Okay, they are not journalists. They are activists. They are the tip of the spear in terms of trying to get social media to shut down dissemination of all information that doesn't come from the New York Times. Kevin Roose, who spends every day trying to get Facebook to shut down traffic to places like Daily Wire or The Federalist or Breitbart or The Blaze or any place that he disagrees with. He has a piece today with Mike Isaac and Shira Frankel saying Facebook struggles to balance civility and growth. Civility and growth. By civility, they mean that they just want you not to be able to see any information that is not from the New York Times. In the 10 days after the presidential election, a team of Facebook employees presented the chief executive, Mark Zuckerberg, with an alarming finding. Election-related misinformation was going viral on the site. President Trump was already casting the election as rigged. Stories from right-wing media outlets with false and misleading claims about discarded ballots, miscounted votes, and skewed tallies were among the most popular news stories on the platform. Now, note, the reason that a lot of those stories were popular on the platform is because the New York Times refused to report many of them, and a lot of them were true. Kevin Roose himself has said this. Okay, we reported election irregularities in Michigan. Okay, and it was a true story. Kevin Roose suggested that it was a false story openly on Twitter, and now he's writing a story about how Facebook needs to shut down those sorts of stories, even though he acknowledged the story was true on Twitter. The employees proposed an emergency change to the site's newsfeed algorithm, which helps determine what more than 2 billion people see every day. It involved emphasizing the importance of what Facebook calls News Ecosystem Quality Scores, or NEQ, a secret internal ranking it assigns to news publishers based on signals about the quality of their journalism. Typically, NEQ scores play a minor role in determining what appears on user feeds. But several days after the election, Zuckerberg agreed to increase the weight that Facebook's algorithm gave to NEQ scores to make sure authoritative news appeared more prominently, said 3 people with knowledge of the decision who were authorized not to discuss internal deliberations. The change was part of the break glass plans Facebook had spent months developing for the aftermath of a contested election. It resulted in, wait for it, a spike in visibility for big mainstream publishers like CNN, the New York Times, and NPR. While posts from highly engaged hyperpartisan pages, such as Breitbart and Occupy Democrats, became less visible, the employees said. It was a vision of what a calmer, less divisive Facebook might look like. Some employees argued the change should become permanent. even if it was unclear how that might affect the amount of time people spent on Facebook. In an employee meeting the week after the election, workers asked whether the nicer newsfeed could stay, said two people who attended. First of all, Zuckerberg is in control of his company, or if he is maybe he's not. If he is control of his company, this would be about the damn time for him to turn to his employees and say, why do I care what you think of the nicer news algorithm? You are not the great arbiter of what truth constitutes. And by the way, for the New York Times to say that their program that they've been pushing results in a spike in visibility for them means they boosted their own traffic by basically hijacking the levers of power at Facebook via their staffers. CNN, the New York Times, and NPR, all massive publications with huge $100 million budgets. All of them got bigger. Meanwhile, any alternative source of information was blocked. Shocker. Shocker. Guy Rosen, a Facebook executive, said that the plan was meant to be temporary. But apparently there are many people on Facebook who want to see it not be temporary. Instead, they would like to see Facebook continue to boost only information that they like and denigrate all of the information that they don't like. This is all part of the plan for the radical journalistic left. Okay, they pretend they are objective. If you don't agree with them, it's because you're bad. And the social media feeds should only reflect real news, like the New York Times and NPR and CNN. Give me an effing break. And that's what you're going to be dealing with under a Biden administration. A media, the Praetorian Guard for Joe Biden, the Praetorian Guard for Democrats. Every Republican will be castigated as evil and malevolent and satanic. That is where all of this is going. So get ready. The lid is going to clamp down on your ability to get information. It's why you should go subscribe to your favorite publications right now before it is too late. Did you know that every like on this video creates one additional leftist tier? Don't ask me why. That's called science. To take advantage of this amazing opportunity, hit the like button.